In this last video, I want to pay a bit more attention to the question of relationships. What we have seen in Couldry's work is the idea that using digital media platforms has an effect on relationships because it positions us in a particular as playing particular roles in new economies that are driven by the generation, collection, and analysis of big data. So, using digital media places us in a particular role within the larger economic structure that governs the world, and it's in this Couldry makes the case for taking a Marxist approach because he argues that using digital media isn't about simply satisfying our immediate wants or performing everyday tasks, but is also about putting us in a particular position in relation to the economy. We are positioned essentially as workers in a particular economy. And what Couldry and Mahar suggests that we do is that we find ways of reflecting on that position and thinking about whether or not it represents what we want to be. What they're suggesting is that digital media um, relies on a particular economic structure that places us in a particular relationship to global economies. Now, so what that means is that using digital media is not simply about serving social ends. It's also about changing the way that we relate to each other. It's about changing the way we experience the self, but also changing our relationship. And this is the point that Bain picks up, where she says that the idea that digital technologies simply enhance teaching, so they take a relationship that already existed between the teacher and the student and they just kind of make it better, is pretty short sighted. She argues that what we are seeing is the transformation of that relationship. So, what she's basically saying is that you and I have a very different relationship to the one that we would have had 25 years ago. And what can we do about this? Well, we can reflect about on it, and what we can do is we can use a thick description approach to some of the big data that Couldry talks about. So, big data is something that Couldry and Mahar suggests takes our wants and our needs and our work and abstracts them from the immediate concerns that drive what we do and gives them a value that's principally of value to somebody else. So what we can do in regard to that is we can kind of try and provide a thick description of the digital data that we create when we're teaching and learning in this class and try and claim it back. And this is the point of the final exercise that I want us to do for our tutorial. And the exercise is, are you your data? And the exercise is pretty easy. What I want you to do is look at evidence about how you're using Moodle. And I want to say, well, ask you, does that represent you? Is this a complete picture of you and your motivations and your needs and your ambitions as media users? So let's just get to the final exercise. Excuse me a second. That's the data that we're going to look at. So, are you your data? And what I've done is I have created an exercise that I'd like you to do for next week. And you can find it in a PDF under the Week 6 Moodle tab. And the objective of this exercise is taking general critical theory, so the critical theory that Couldry and Mahar introduces to, and applying it to a particular case study, the experience of your own digital learning. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at one of the two key readings, and I'll tell you which one that I want you to look at individually. And I want you to practice some skills that you're going to need to have mastered in your written assessments for this unit. First, I want you to take your assigned reading, and I want you to find key quotes that summarize the most important part of the argument of that piece for you. And I want you to find that key quote. I want you to explain what it means. And then what we're going to do in the exercise is we're going to use that key quote as a code to apply to the evidence, to make the evidence from your Moodle activities meaningful. And the purpose of this exercise is to enhance our understanding of the role that qualitative media research plays by using theory and the notion of thick description, looking at your own experiences, looking at the numbers that are attached to your experience and going, well, okay, but what are these numbers not telling us based on what I know about why I engage with Moodle in the way that I do? And then use that to show how theory and thick description can contribute to our knowledge about how and why people use media by identifying gaps in quantitative data, by interrogating the silences that are there, by learning to question what is not there in the big data that governs so much of our lives. So if you head on now over to the tutorial exercise, which is under the week 6 Moodle tab. So it will be just right underneath where this video is, and do the exercise, and I'll see you in class.